Could the steak you're savoring in 2050 be grown in a lab? Imagine this. A world where the meat on your plate didn't come from a farm, but from a laboratory, cultured from animal cells. This isn't some far-flung science fiction. It's a reality that's being crafted as we speak, and it's stirring up quite a conversation. Traditional meat production has been under the microscope for years, scrutinized for its environmental impact, ethical concerns, and health implications. Meanwhile, lab-grown meat, also known as cultured meat, presents a potential solution to these issues, promising a future of sustainable and ethical meat production. But the path to this future isn't without its share of hurdles. There are debates to be had, controversies to navigate, and technological challenges to overcome. It's a complex issue that's sparking discussions among scientists, environmentalists, farmers, and consumers alike. Join us as we delve into the world of traditional and lab-grown meat production. Traditional meat production has been feeding us for centuries. It's a process as old as human civilization itself, rooted in the symbiotic relationship between humans and the animals they raise. But as we delve deeper into the 21st century, we are compelled to look at this age-old practice through a new lens. Let's break down the traditional meat production process. It begins with raising animals, a process that requires significant resources. Think water, food, land, and time. The animals are then slaughtered, processed, and distributed to consumers. From farm to fork, it's a resource-intensive journey that leaves a considerable carbon footprint. Now let's talk about the environmental impact. The Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that livestock production accounts for nearly 14.5% of all anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. This is a significant contributor to climate change. Additionally, raising animals for meat requires vast amounts of land, leading to deforestation and habitat loss. But the concerns don't stop at the environment. There are ethical considerations too. Many question the morality of raising animals for slaughter, citing issues of animal welfare and the conditions in which they are raised. And then there are health concerns. Conventional meat is often associated with numerous health risks, including heart disease, obesity, and certain types of cancer. Furthermore, the use of antibiotics in livestock production has led to a rise in antibiotic-resistant bacteria, posing a significant threat to public health. All these factors combined paint a complicated picture of traditional meat production. It's a system that has sustained us for millennia, providing us with the nutrients we need to thrive. But it's also a system that, in its current form, poses significant challenges to our environment, our ethics, and our health. However, with growing population and environmental concerns, the sustainability of traditional meat production is under scrutiny. As we look to the future, we're faced with a pressing question. Is there a better way to satisfy our carnivorous cravings? Welcome to the future, where your steak might just be grown in a lab. A statement that may have seemed like science fiction a few decades ago is inching closer to reality. But what exactly is this so-called lab-grown meat? Also known as cultured meat, lab-grown meat is produced by taking a small sample of animal cells and replicating them in a lab. The process begins with a biopsy, where a small amount of muscle tissue is taken from a live animal. This tissue contains a type of cells called myoblasts, which have the ability to grow and become muscle tissue. The myoblasts are then placed in a culture medium, a nutritious broth that encourages the cells to multiply. Over time, these cells grow and fuse together, forming muscle tissue, or what we commonly refer to as meat. Now, let's delve into the potential benefits of this futuristic food source. Firstly, lab-grown meat could significantly reduce the environmental impact of meat production. Traditional livestock farming contributes to a significant portion of global greenhouse gas emissions and requires vast amounts of land and water. Cultured meat, on the other hand, could drastically cut these resource requirements, contributing to a more sustainable food system. Secondly, there are clear ethical advantages. Cultured meat production could eliminate the need for animal slaughter, addressing concerns about animal welfare inherent in current farming practices. Finally, lab-grown meat could also have health benefits. Since it's produced in controlled lab conditions, the risk of bacterial contamination could be lower than in traditional meat. Moreover, the nutritional content of the meat could be manipulated, potentially leading to healthier products. Despite its potential, lab-grown meat production also presents its own set of challenges. These include technical hurdles, regulatory issues, and public acceptance. But as science advances and society evolves, we might just find ourselves ordering a lab-grown steak at our favorite restaurant sooner than we think. Lab-grown meat isn't without its share of hurdles. Now let's delve into some of the challenges that scientists and companies face in bringing this futuristic food to our plates. One of the most significant obstacles is the cost. Initially, the price tag for creating a single lab-grown burger was a whopping $250,000. While that number has drastically reduced over time, it is still much higher than your average supermarket beef. The challenge here is to bring the production cost down without compromising on the quality or safety of the meat. Next is the taste. While lab-grown meat is indeed meat at a cellular level, there have been concerns about whether it can replicate the complex textures and flavors that come from traditional farming. Some early taste testers have noted that while it's close, it's not quite the same as the real thing. Then there's the matter of consumer acceptance. Will people be ready to swap their farm-raised steaks for something grown in a lab? There's a psychological hurdle to overcome here. Some consumers might be put off by the idea of synthetic or artificial meat, even if it's virtually identical to the real thing at a molecular level. Finally, we have regulatory hurdles and uncertainties. As with any new technology, lab-grown meat is navigating uncharted waters when it comes to food safety regulations. In many regions, it's still unclear how these products will be regulated, labeled, and monitored for safety. These legal gray areas could slow down the progress and acceptance of lab-grown meat, but it's not all doom and gloom. These challenges are merely obstacles to overcome, not impassable barriers. With continued research, innovation, and public dialogue, it's possible that we could see lab-grown meat in our supermarkets in the not-too-distant future. So, the road to lab-grown meat becoming commonplace is not without its bumps. However, with every challenge comes an opportunity for innovation and growth. And the future of food may just be shaped in a petri dish. So, what does this mean for the future of our dinner plates? Well, one thing's for sure. We're on the precipice of a food revolution. As the world grapples with the challenges of feeding an ever-growing population, lab-grown meat offers a promising alternative. From the perspective of scientists, there's a sense of excitement and curiosity. They see cultured meat as a new frontier in food science, one that holds the potential to address some of the most pressing issues of our time, like climate change and food security. They're already envisioning a world where a single cell could provide enough meat to feed a whole city without the environmental costs associated with traditional livestock farming. But what about the farmers? For them, the shift towards lab-grown meat could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it could ease the burden of livestock farming, reducing the need for vast amounts of land, water, and grain. On the other, it could also threaten their livelihoods, forcing them to adapt to a rapidly changing industry. There's a need for policies that ensure these traditional food producers aren't left behind. And then we have the consumers, the ones who will ultimately decide the fate of lab-grown meat. For many, the idea of eating meat grown in a lab is still a bit unsettling. But as awareness grows and the technology improves, the perception is slowly changing. People are starting to see cultured meat not just as a novelty, but as a viable, even preferable alternative to conventionally farmed meat. One thing is certain, the way we produce and consume meat is poised for a dramatic transformation. As we move towards more sustainable, humane, and efficient methods of meat production, lab-grown meat is poised to play a crucial role in the shift. The future of food is evolving, and it's clear that lab-grown meat will play a role in it. Traditional or lab-grown, the choice might soon be on your dinner table. As we've navigated today's discussion, we've seen how our conventional methods of meat production are being challenged by the burgeoning field of lab-grown meat. A marvel of scientific ingenuity, this technology has the potential to revolutionize our food systems, promising a future where our dinner plates are filled with sustainable, cruelty-free meat. Yet, as with all new technologies, lab-grown meat faces its own set of challenges. From questions about taste and texture to concerns about economic viability and public acceptance, the journey to mainstream adoption is far from straightforward. In the end, though, the implications are profound. Lab-grown meat stands at the intersection of science and sustenance, poised to redefine our relationship with food. As we move forward, we're not just talking about a change in our diets, but a potential shift in our cultural, ethical, and environmental landscapes. Whatever the future holds, it's clear that the way we produce and consume meat is poised for change.